Survivors of the Shoah Visual History Foundation, December the 3rd, 1996. Survivor Aviva Benanav, née Rosen. Interviewer Fred Charatan. City Boynton Beach, USA. Language English, Reel 1. My name is Fred Charatan. Today's date is December the 3rd, 1996. I am conducting an interview with survivor Aviva Benanav. The interview is being conducted in Boynton Beach, Florida, USA, in English. I'd like you to start by saying your name and giving its spelling.
My name is Aviva. The spelling is A-V-I-V-A. And the last name is Benanav. It's B-E-N-A-N-A-V.
What was your name at birth?
My name of birth was Isadora Rosen.
Would you spell that?
Yes. I-S-A-D-O-R-A. And Rosen, it's R-O-S-E-N.
Did you have any other names?
No.
Did you have any nicknames?
No.
What was your date of birth?
7/17/24. July 17/24.
And how old does that make you now?
That makes me now 72 or 70.
I'd like you now to go back to your childhood and tell us what life was like growing up with your family.
Well, I was born in a very small village. The name was Iveshti. And my family was my mother, my grandmother, my brother, and my father. I was 6 years old when my father died. He was a lawyer, and I remember just coming home one day. They took him to the hospital, and he never came back from the hospital, except at the funeral.
What did he die from?
At that time we didn't know, or maybe if he had cancer, they didn't speak about it. But I remember that he was sick a couple of weeks, and before he went to the hospital, he was walking with a stick. He couldn't see anymore. So some people say that maybe he was diabetic, and that's the reason that's what he died. My grandmother still didn't tell me exactly what exactly happened to him, because she probably didn't know either. They knew that from one grandmother I hear it's cancer, from the other grandmother, his mother, that didn't live with us in the same town, smaller town. So when she came to the funeral, she just took it like, he died.
What was it like then growing up in Ivest?
Well, that was a very small village. And
how many people lived there?
And the town, maybe 300 people, 300 family, I should say.
How many Jews were there?
Maybe five Jewish family. The rest were more Gentile and people that, more peasant kind of people that live there. That's it.
Your father was a lawyer. Did
Yes.
he practice there or someplace else?
No, he didn't practice there. He practiced in a bigger town in Yassi.
Yes.
Yeah. And She used to come home very often, not every day, but twice or 3 times a week he came home to be with the family.
What kind of home did you have? Was it an apartment or a house?
No, we have a little house that wasn't anything to speak about it, but it was a house that my grandmother, we live with a grandmother because my father, my grandfather, before he died, he left this house for my grandmother, and also he didn't have his sons, but they were small children. So they brought my father from Yassi. My mother and my father were cousins. So they decided that my grandfather wasn't a very rich man, but he had still some kind of business. And they felt that this business is going to fall apart if nobody is going to take care of it. So they took my mother back. They brought my mother that was in school. They brought her home, and they got married. And so we lived with my grandmother. After they got married, you know.
They moved in with your grandmother then?
Yes, yeah. We moved in with my grandmother. And
did your home have a telephone and indoor plumbing?
no, we didn't have no telephone, not indoor plumbing. It was like a very simple and very modest. The only thing that I remember we had real floor on the, you know, I don't know if it was not formica, but they had that little stone kind of on the floor.
Did your, do you recall whether your family had a daily newspaper?
They did have a newspaper, but I don't think it was, it used to come from another place, maybe from Yassi or my great-grandfather was a small little rabbi in this little Yvesh, in that little town. So somehow he was reading more the Jewish paper. No, but this he didn't have it. He wasn't really, he read Jewish books.
Did you have a radio in the home?
No. Not.
Growing up, where did you go to school?
Well, I went to a Jewish school. I wouldn't say it was a Jewish school. It was a small little school that Gentile and the Jews went there.
In Ivest?
Yes. It was a very small school. And I was in school until I was about 6.5 or 7 years old when we left this town, Ivest.
Did your brother go to the same school as you did?
My brother, yes.
How much
My
older?
brother was much younger than me, a year and a half younger.
Yeah. And you say you left Ivest?
Yeah, we left Ivest
How old
after
were
my
you then?
father died.
After he died?
Yes, we left Ivest, and I was about 6.5 years, 6.5 or 7 years old.
Where did you go to?
We went to Bucharest, to the capital of Romania then.
What kind of place did you live in Bucharest?
In Bucharest, we lived in like an apartment house, but a very old one, and the street was, I remember, it was a street that most of the Jews that live in Bucharest lived in the street. And the name of the street was Dudești, a small little thing. But we left the town because my mother, after my father died, she used to be a teacher. My mother used to teach French. And we had to go to this bigger town so she'd be able to get something to survive. My grandmother wasn't very young at that time. She was probably about 40 years old. My mother was 26 years old when my father died. And she had 2 children and my grandmother, and we had to survive. Her brother and sister were yet very young. They couldn't go to work yet. So she told that by her being the one that could do something, and in Bucharest it wasn't very easy for a Jewish woman to teach, but she had a very good, she was teaching French because she went to Paris to learn that. And when my grandfather died, they took her back from school to bring her home so she should marry my father. And that's the only way, we knew how to survive, by her going to work. And
when you were living in Ivest,
yeah,
did you encounter anti-Semitism?
Not really, not too much, because I don't think that people there were so, they live together but maybe it was, except that I don't remember too much of my 6.5 years old. I really couldn't remember. I don't remember if I did have friends, but if I had friends, they were Jewish children.
And the way you were brought up, was it Orthodox or religious?
No, my grandfather was very, like I said, he was a rabbi there in Ivest. But probably that my mother was so heartbroken, or that such a young woman to be left with 2 children, a widow. I don't say that she turned against God, but she just didn't want to have anything to do with the religious. I don't remember my mother going to a synagogue when after my father died. She just completely decided that she doesn't have to do anything,
What about when your father was alive, though?
Yes, when my father was alive, I remember that my mother, my grandmother, for the Jewish holidays we went there, and sometime, we used to come to my grandfather, and we got together and we had a little dinner there. It was much more Jewishness than at the time after my father died. He completely ignored this whole thing.
Can you tell me how life was in Bucharest after you moved there?
Oh, in Bucharest it wasn't very easy, because the money that my mother used to do as being a teacher, it wasn't enough for her to survive. But I don't remember for sure. My grandfather had a brother there in Bucharest, and somehow the way I remember is that this uncle used to come and sometimes help us with food or some money, and we were, I would say, very poor, because nobody was there to really help us except this uncle. And
do you remember going short of food or clothing?
Yes, I remember very well. In fact, my husband tells me, how come you like so much to eat onion? I said, because when I was young, sometimes that was our supper. We had the onion, my grandmother used to make the onion and with a little bit oil, and for us, that was a supper. And we didn't have even, sometime maybe once a week, we used to have meat or chicken. And many times I said, how did she manage, my grandmother, to make from one chicken so many dinners? And it was really impossible to live in Bucharest if you didn't have no money. And sometimes I used to get shoes or clothes from my other relative that lived in Bucharest. I had the family of my father also lived in Bucharest. But they were kind of, looking at the poor, we were the poor people.
When you were in Bucharest, did you encounter anti-Semitism there?
Yes.
Can you describe your experiences
yes.
of that?
That was already, I was maybe 12 years old or 13 years old. And how young girls start going out with, so kind of I had a friend, or maybe it was a neighbor, that liked me. And it happens that he used to kind of try to, not to make me feel, that some people talk about us. We thought that they talk about us because we are poor. But his father was a very big politician and one of the government. So somehow I didn't go into the group, his group. He kind of was more attached to me, and we went out with our Jewish friends. But it was one episode that I remember that they said that many Jewish people that we went to school, and they were very upset that we are also in school, and they used to say, "You dirty Jew," or sometimes throw us with stones or with all kind of things and spit on us, and
Did that
dirty
happen to
Jews,
you?
they used to.
That happened to you?
Yeah, that happened to me, but not too many times, because somehow my grandmother used to protect us. We never went out too much, just being in our neighborhood. That there were more Jewish families, so we did not really. Nobody was making fun of us because they were the ones, the Jewish people had the same thing experience like we did.
Were you ever injured or assaulted? Were you injured?
No.
Did anybody try to take advantage of you?
No.
What kind of school did you go to in Bucharest?
Well, I remember it was a school that they used to teach religious. So when they start talking about Jesus Christ and Virgin Mary, the Jewish children used to go out. They used to make you feel that you're really different. You don't have to listen to what they are saying. So I really can't say for sure how much religious I had, But I didn't feel too bad in Bucharest, because my grandmother was the one that really made sure that we're not going out to be attacked or so. She was always there. My mother was always teaching, and she was teaching French to a very, I would say, a very, I wouldn't say it's religious, but it was only for the Gentile people that they were trying to learn French. And I don't remember, and I don't know for sure if they knew that she is Jewish. Probably they knew that higher up, they knew that she is Jewish. But she was such a good French teacher that she worked there for many years.
Did your mother remarry?
No, she never remarried. She was a widow from the 26 years old, until she died 10 years later. She was 36 years old when she died in the concentration camp, and she just she was never out too much. She was always home with my grandmother and with the children, or going to work. That was her life.
Did you go to work after you left school?
No, I never went to work. I just many years, like when I was 13, 14 years old, I have another aunt, a sister of my mother, that she lived in Belz, that's in Bessarabia. So my mother felt that she just couldn't support me and my brother and the family. So this aunt, she was not married. She was also a French teacher, but in another place. So she decided that maybe for me it would be better if I come there to Belz for a couple of years, and I would study there in the same school where she was teaching. And I was there for about 3 years.
When did you go to Belz?
Then I was 13 years old, if I remember, 13.
That would be 1937, would it? Maybe.
1937, yes, I think so, 37, because I'm 39, maybe 38 already, because 37, yeah, something like this, 37.
How did you get from Bucharest to Belz?
Oh, that was not very far. We didn't go by plane, but I went with the train. It was a couple hours, and I remember that I used to hate to leave my mother, my grandmother, my brother, and to go to Belz. And I couldn't understand, why shouldn't I stay home? I wanted to stay with my mother. And as much she explained to me that is not, I didn't understand. And I used to really hate going from Bucharest to Belz and be away for so many months, until I came on vacation to see my mother, my grandmother. This end was very nice and very good to me, really very good. But with all this, I missed my mother. So I stayed there for about maybe 3 years.
Who were you staying with? Just with your aunt?
Just with my aunt, yeah.
Just
she
the
was
two of
not
you?
married.
Yeah.
She had a boyfriend there, but she has her own apartment. She was, and Belz for her was much better because she was well looking, she's kind of elite. She's a teacher, and she's such a good teacher. So she had a lot of friends there, also Jewish friends. I don't remember any that wasn't Jewish, because in Belz was a lot of Jewish people. So.
Can you recall what it was like living in Belz during those 3 years?
I had it much better because I had already much more food, and she was very good to me. And I remember that she was a teacher in school where I was going, and I was very skinny then, and she was worried about, and she used to come with the food to fat me up a little bit. And I had very good friends. My aunt's friends, or one was a doctor that has a family, and I could be friendly with this family. And I had it much better in Belz. I mean, the food, everything was brought to us. We had somebody to take care of the apartment, and so. But with all this, I wanted to go back to be with my grandmother and my mother.
Did you manage to go back for vacations
Yeah,
or holidays?
I used to go twice a year vacation. We used to go, I remember it was maybe Passover vacation, and then the big vacation that we got for 2-3 months. I used to spend it with my mother there, even if she was busy, but she was, not only that she was busy in school, but after school she used to have a lot of students that she used to teach them home French, so we could have more money.
When you were in Belz then, were you going to college or to school?
I was going to high school, so...
I didn't ask you either, what language did you speak at home with your mother and father?
When I was till 6.5 years, I spoke with my mother French until I used to go to school, to really Romanian school. That's when I learned how to speak Romanian. And then, after this, I spoke Romanian with my mother and with my grandmother. My grandmother didn't understand so much French because she didn't know any, but I spoke Romanian with my grandmother, and that's my language.
Did you speak Yiddish at all?
No.
Not, or Hebrew?
No, I did not.
What language did you speak with your aunt in Belz?
Romanian, I spoke. Because I couldn't speak French to her because, somehow she was teaching French, but she wanted me to learn Romanian. So
when you were living in Belz, how aware were you of the approach of the war?
No, we didn't know anything about approaching the war. It was, nobody talked about that time. We didn't know anything. It was just like every child in Romania, and so I don't think anybody knew about it.
When you were living with your aunt, though, did you read the daily newspapers there?
Yes, we did. We did.
Did they carry any news about the political situation?
No.
What about a radio? Did your aunt have a radio?
Yeah, my aunt had a radio.
What did you listen to on that radio?
Just Romanian, what was transmitted from Bucharest.
Where were you when the war broke out?
Oh. Just happened that I was in Belz, but probably my mother, and that was close to the vacation time. So my mother or my aunt said, you better go back to be with your mother. Go back to. That when it started in Romania, that's the first time I really found out that the Jews are not very well liked. And when I came back to Bucharest, somehow I felt like it was something not very clear to us, what's happening. I saw my grandmother was very upset. Then I found out that my grandmother was getting, she had cancer, but they didn't speak about that. And also, on the same time, it started the politics in Romania. It was, I don't know if you know about, was a very bad change in Romania about the government came and was a very garda de fier that was against Romania. You know, it was very bad. Happened that I had this boyfriend that I was close to him. I mean, he was my only non-Jewish friend. And his father was in politics, and he was coming to say to, he came and tell me, you know, soon, maybe this week, something is going to happen in your street. So I couldn't understand what could have happened. So really, after a couple of days, this Garda de Fier came and made a little pogrom in Bucharest, and this place, and that's my street. And nothing really happened to us, but some little houses were burned, and so, and that when we decide that this is not a good thing to be in Bucharest, my mother was right away thrown out from school, and we didn't have nothing, how to survive. So in the meantime, my grandmother died. She was only 53 years old when she died. And we decided, what do we do? I mean, it was nothing for us to do in Bucharest. So through some, I can't tell you exactly through what kind of organization, I don't know, I can't remember. We left everything, and overnight, we left our, nothing that we took with us except some clothes. And after this, we decided to go to Galați.
Survivor, Aviva Benanav, Reel 2. So you and your family and mother went to Galați.
Yes, we were waiting for it was, like you would say, clandestine. You know, it was, nobody knew that we disappeared from Bucharest. And we had some family, I can't remember if they were related to us or they knew us. They somehow arranged that we should run from Galatz to Bessarabia, where my aunt was still there.
When did you actually go to Galatz then?
If I'm not mistaken, I think it was in 39 when we ran away from Bucharest to Galatz, and maybe 2 days or 3 days later, over the water, I don't remember exactly how many hours it was, you know, until we arrived to Belz. So we arrived there, and my aunt did not know that we are coming, because that was from one day to the other we decided that this is the best thing for us to do. We arrived there, and in that little apartment that my aunt had, for a couple of days, we stayed with her, and then through some friends that she had there, she arranged a little apartment for all of us. All of us was, my grandmother wasn't there anymore, was my mother, and my brother, and I, and one uncle, her brother, and another sister. We all came as a family, and then we moved away, also Belz on another street, and my mother tried to get a job there, and somehow she managed, you know, to get also a job teaching also French. And we stayed there for maybe 8 months until something happened. The German occupied that place, and they, from one night to the other, we just heard bombs going, and the people being running, and so when we got up in the morning, we saw that the Germans are there.
Do you remember when that was?
I remember that maybe it was in July or maybe June. It was 8 months after we arrived to Belz.
Do you remember the year that was, or how old you were at the time?
Yes, I remember it was maybe 41, no, 40, in the 40s, and how old was I? 40, about maybe 17. And but before that occupation, I also went to school there in Belz. Again, I came back, and that was more Russian already. When we ran to Belz, it was Russian occupation.
Can you throw your mind back to that time and try and recall how you found out about the German occupation?
We just found out, you know, that...
what do you recall? What do you remember of that?
I remember that right away my aunt couldn't teach there anymore, my mother either, and we were just waiting for something to happen. We didn't know what's going to happen, but later on, somehow maybe a couple days after the occupation, we saw a lot of German soldiers, and all the people from town, the Jewish people, that they know about it, they, like my aunt and my mother, was taking to work for some German, I don't know if they put their restaurant for them or a place, you know, where German officers were there. So they should be, my mother was a cook, my aunt was something else, also probably a cook. And we children, you know, my brother and I, and my other uncle and sister, they didn't do nothing. They were just waiting for something to happen until it took about 2 or 3 months. until really something happened with the German.
Let me ask you, was the town bombarded at the start?
Yes, it was bombarded, and many houses were completely ruined.
Did you see that yourself?
Yes. And sometimes the bombs used to come in the middle of the day, and you never know where the bomb is going. And sometimes we used to walk, and here the bomb fell down, and we had to, jump and see all these things that happens there. Many people were killed. Many people were not too many ambulance, but what they have there in belts used to come and go and take those dead people, or we saw that.
Did you witness any fighting?
No, not.
Did you see any troops there?
Yeah, I saw troops because my mother was working there in the cafeteria, or what was it, and so we saw troops. We saw a lot of German. In fact, one of the German that was more, I would say, he used to sympathize my aunt, and because my aunt kind of spoke German a little bit, so he used to say to her, I'm not a Nazi, I'm not a German hater, a Jewish hater, but, we do things what we are say, do this, and they do it. But he was such a sympathizer of my aunt and my mother that when the whole thing really kind of blew, that we have to be sent to concentration camp, he said to my mother, let me take your daughter with me, we don't know what's going to happen to all of you, but if I take your daughter with me, she'll survive because she doesn't look Jewish. I can walk with her in front of Hitler. And said, would never, even Hitler himself would not believe that she is Jewish. So my mother, like every mother, wanted the child. So she said, they talked, maybe he's right, maybe I can survive. But I wouldn't go with, my mother said it's up to me, but up to me was, what was I then, 16, 17 years old. I didn't really know what could happen. So I didn't go with
How did you manage to survive, you and your mother and your uncle and aunt?
Well, my mother was working in this place, and my aunt was working this place, and maybe they used to bring food home. They used to bring some things. I don't know if they were giving her or she was just taking it, but we had enough food for this couple of weeks, or maybe it was a month, that we stayed in Belts. And then one day, they took all the Jews that they were there, and they say, okay, now you just have to be taking you somewhere. We didn't know where. So for 3 months, we just walk and walk from Belts, from many little towns, and we slept outside in the camp with the German after us. And I remember it wasn't maybe in August we started walking, and we came to Ukraine, also a place where the German occupation was, and my mother got sick in the meantime because we had to walk, and it was from summer, and there already was snowing there. And the snow in Ukraine is very bad. It's up to your shoulder sometime. And when we walk, probably my mother got frozen, her feet got frozen, and they had to put her, they had a carriage where they used to take, all the survivors, somebody that's still not okay that he can walk, and put them in this carriage that peasants used to have, that little carriage kind of.
How many people were put on this march?
Oh, I would say we were about 150, 200 people.
From Belts?
From the Belts, yeah.
Were they all ages?
Yeah, all ages. old and young and children and grandparents already, but they were old.
Who were guarding you then?
Just German soldiers.
SS or regular?
Yeah, SS.
What color uniforms did they have?
The grayish uniform with that. Every time I see it on the TV, when they showed me, I get goosebumps from that. And then when my mother was there and that they put her in the carriage, somebody stole her shoes. So was so cold for her because they didn't have anything to cover herself. And then she got gangrene. She had so much gangrene that when she died, half of her legs, she didn't have anything left, just the bone.
How long were you on this march for?
3 months.
3 months?
Yeah.
And where did the march end?
The march ended in this little place that was before the Russian used to live in this little house, and it was a house that was bombed and didn't have no ceiling, nothing. It just was the frame of the house. And so...
Do you know where it was located?
Yes, in Obodovka. That was a place.
Obodovka?
Yeah, in Obodovka. And we arrived there. We didn't have nothing to eat. Nobody gave us anything to eat. And my mother in the meantime got very, very sick. And we didn't have no medicine. We didn't have no bandages to do for her legs. And we lied there, survived from, we used to have straw and snow. We used to bring it into the fire. I don't know where they got the fire from. Probably they had some matches. And we used to take the snow and made water from the snow and put the straw into it and cook the straw until it got kind of softer, and that's what we ate for a while. And then we digged out there where the peasant, and we used to sometimes find all kind of potatoes or onion, and that was all what we had. And in the meantime, that my mother got very sick, and I got very sick. I got typhus. And again, no medicine, nothing. So for 21 days, that's what they told me, that my mother, with all what she had, she was sick herself, she used to take water, snow, and put it in my mouth. And 21 days, with no medicine, without anything, I survived. And then my brother got sick. And then I have an aunt that she got sick also there.
All with typhus?
Typhus. And my aunt got dysentery. And she died after maybe being sick, maybe a couple of days. She didn't survive. She just died. And then an uncle, her brother, also had the same thing, and he died.
In Obodovka?
In Obodovka. In the same house that we arrived. So then we were left, my mother and my brother and I. Now, my mother was very sick. My brother was very sick. I was already, after 21 days, they say, if you survive the crisis, then you survive. You get up, and you're very hungry, and there's nothing to eat.
Were you still being guarded by soldiers?
No, we were not guarded. They threw you out there.
You were just left there?
Left there. But you couldn't go nowhere because the snow was so big that you could not even see, even if you would go outside. There was nothing there to look for.
Was there any attempt on the part of any of the people there to organize things or to lead the people?
Maybe it was, but I don't remember. I really don't remember that thing. So I only remember that when I arrived to this camp, to this place, my mother right away cut my hair completely. And if anybody was asking anything, she said, I have 2 sons, my brother and I. I didn't understand why. Later on I understood, because German or who was there was going around raping and this. So I lived there as a boy. And one instance I remember that after I got from being sick, I said to myself, no, I was so hungry. You know, I understand an animal when it's very hungry that could eat anything. This is how I felt. So I decided I'll go someplace looking for food. I didn't know where I'm going to go. And I didn't have nothing to wear except I found the straw that we have there and some newspaper. And I didn't have no shoes because I don't know what happened to my shoes. So I just had a pair of galoshes. You know what it is? One man, one for a woman. I put it around me, and I say to myself, I'm going to look for something to eat. I didn't know where I'm going. And one thing I still remember, when I walked in that big snow, you know, being so still sick, I could see star on my eyes. I was walking, and it seems to me that only the star was around my eyes. So I didn't know where I'm walking. I walked. So I decided that maybe, you know, I'll just go to the first house. I didn't know where this first house will be, and I don't remember how long I walked until I really came to a house, and I knocked on the door, and that was a Russian or Ukrainian man that didn't run from that home. He stayed there. And he saw me. I think I looked like a skeleton. Yellow, no hair. I had a babushka on my head because I had to cover myself. And somehow, when I was on belts, I learned a little bit Russian. So I told him that I'm hungry. I want something to eat. He was afraid that he would help or somebody would see me. I don't know if there were more houses there. If they would see me, that he's helping me. So somehow in Russian, he told me that I should go around the house. Nobody would see and wait there. So he came. He brought a piece of bread that if I would take that bread and throw it on a window, they would probably break the window. Anyway, but he brought me that piece of bread. He brought me a piece of lard. And he brought me this garlic, one piece of garlic and onion. And he begged me to go around so nobody to see that he helped me. Until today, I still think about it. It was like maybe an angel picked me up, because once you walk in the snow, you know, and the snow is there, you don't see where you walk. How did I find my way back to my place? It's still a mystery for me. And I said, probably it was, I don't believe in angels and everything, but must have been something that I found my place. I got back home, and when I saw the bread and everything, I ate a piece, and then I wanted, like, to finish, but I said to myself, no, I cannot finish this, because there is my mother dying and my brother. I can't finish this whole thing. So I found the home and I brought it. My mother was already delirious. She did not know anything what's happening to her, and my brother was also very sick. And plus that my mother was and the house smells, you know, when you get gangrene, that smell of this, and it was, but before she died, she said to me, if you ever survive, if you and your brother, you don't have anybody left in this world, you have to take care of each other. And don't let yourself, you know, many things you could hear about girls, you know, that they go for this. She said, don't let yourself down, that you, in a situation like this, remember who you are and just be an honest person, and as much as you can try to help, that's what you should do. And then she died.
You were there when she died?
Yes. I was there, and it was nobody to come and bury her, because once in a week or once in 2 weeks, they used to come to each house and see who's still alive and who doesn't. So we had to wait for a couple of days, maybe, with my mother dead there near us, and it was nobody to take her. And
so what happened eventually?
Eventually somebody came, I don't know, some peasants. They took her in a carriage, and they threw her out someplace. I don't know. I never knew where my mother was buried, because they took, like we took every dead person, they threw it someplace. And who knows who, maybe I don't know.
Someplace near Obodovka.
Yeah, the same Obodovka, probably in a little place that was a garbage thing or something. They threw her there, and that was the end of my mother. And another episode that is one that until I die, I wouldn't forget it. One day the German used to come and take people to work there. They take you some place to work, to pick up maybe what they have sugar canes there or something. They used to come and take you to work. And I was like a boy, like I said. I wasn't. So I saw, my mother saw, I don't know how, some people coming, and she was already sick and lying down. She picked up the straw that she was lying in, and she took me right away and put me under the straw, and she was sitting on me. So when the people came, the German came, say, "Where is your daughter?" My mother said, "I don't have no daughter, I have 2 sons." He said, "No, we know that your daughter," and then you tell us. They pick her up by her hair, but she still have sick like this. They beat her up so, but she never said that she has a daughter. And I was under it, hearing the screaming and yelling and everything, and she never give up to say, said, "My 2 sons are at work now, that's all." And then after this, she got worse and worse, and she died. That's one episode I would never forget, how she really, not that she saved my life, but who knows, maybe she did. And you want me to not? And then after my mother died, I was left with my brother and an aunt that she survived, and that was already spring. It came spring. That was the 2nd year already. It was spring, so we could just go out a little bit, and we didn't know who is next and who is going to say anything to the German. There were many Jews that also kind of, for a price of the piece of bread or something, they used to squeal, kind of. So we were outside in the spring. We were waiting there to see what's going to happen or what it is. We didn't have nothing what to do except waiting for the German to come and take us to work. So one day we were waiting. It was a nice day. We were waiting outside, and all of a sudden we see a funeral coming through. And we were looking, and the preacher, or what do you call the guy that was conducting the funeral, he just looked at us, kind of looked. So after the funeral passed by, the guy, this preacher, or he was an Orthodox, Greek Orthodox preacher, he came back to the camp, or to this place, and he saw my aunt. My aunt, we all look like, the picture, and how aunt survivors, that's how we looked. We looked and looked. The only thing he said to my aunt, are you, where are you? And he started asking questions. He was a Romanian Orthodox, Greek Orthodox preacher. So my aunt said, I'm from here, I study here, I study there. So they found out that in high school, they were in the same class. He went to be a preacher, and she went my aunt wanted at that time to be a lawyer, but lawyer couldn't, so she went to school to be a teacher. And from that time, he was a very nice man, not only a God preacher, but he was really a nice person. From that time, that was already the second year, that we didn't have nothing to eat and we survived from what we could. He started helping us. In fact, he used to say, I'll take your brother when the funeral would be. I'll take my brother. And he said, the Orthodox, the Greek Orthodox or by the Russian, I don't know, before the funeral, they go, some relative or some people with all kind of food, rice and bread and this. And after the funeral, with all this food, they used to go to the people home where the person died and make a feast of this, and everybody was there. So he said to my brother, when you reach that corner, you could just disappear. What you have in your hand, you go and take it home with you. And that's what we used to have, we had much more to eat. Plus, he was going back many times to Romania, where my aunt was engaged to a man there, and he used to send us a lot of packages and everything until we had a pretty good year then, because we weren't hungry anymore, and probably the German already kind of find out that they're not going to be the one, they're losing the war kind. And so it wasn't too bad for us in that year. In fact, many times when he knew that the Germans are coming to take people to work, he used to know and used to come and take me his church. I said I slept more in a church than in a synagogue, because he really used to protect us. He used to give us a lot of, he used to be like a father to us, especially. Yeah.
Survivor, Aviva Benanav, Reel 3. So this Greek Orthodox priest, a former classmate of yours, was really...
Classmate of my aunt.
Classmate of your aunt was
Yes.
really a helper.
Yes. He really, I could say, he's really saved us, our life in a way, because we used to get a lot of packages from Romania, from my aunt fiancé.
Sent to Obadovka.
Yeah, they sent, he used to go to Romania, back to my my aunt's fiancé lived in Timișoara. That's, yeah.
What
And
happened there as the time went on there?
in Timișoara?
No, what happened to you in Obadovka as the time went on?
Well, we just did nothing, just waiting for the German to come and pick us up to work. Really nothing happened. In the meantime, I met a friend of mine that her mother was a dentist, and she used to work there for the German or for the Ukrainian people, and she really helped me also. Her mother helped me. Sometime I used to sleep in their house, and sometimes when we didn't have too much food or something, she used to have more, because they used to, instead of money, they used to bring the chicken or fish or something. So she used to kind of take me like one of her daughters, and she really helped me.
Did the Germans actually establish a ghetto in Obradovka?
No, it wasn't a ghetto. I never saw any guards there near my house. Probably they had something, but I just don't remember. I only was around my house, and I didn't know how much German were there, or...
Was there any possibility of escaping or running away?
Probably it was, but you say, where do I run? Where do you run? In the winter time, you couldn't run any place. And when the spring came, you just didn't do anything. It was nobody, like in our family, after everybody, we didn't have a man in the house. We were just very, so.
How many Jews were living in that area altogether, would you say?
Maybe 100, maybe less. We didn't know, I didn't really know too much about the Jews that lived there, except I knew about somebody that squealed, and he said that in this house there are not two boys, it's a boy and a girl. Now, how would he know that wasn't real? How could he find out?
So what happened then after that?
Well, after that, luckily was that somehow like I said, we had a lot of food from this guy, from the preacher, but somebody again went to squeal that we live too good. I mean, that we have more food than the white, and somebody said that they probably got it from the preacher or something. And my aunt was arrested, and the preacher was also arrested, and they sent him to another town and a jail. They were in jail there for a couple months. And here, my brother and I were left alone in this house until one day. In fact, one of the people, the Jewish people, they felt sorry for us, and they took us in their house. They didn't have children. And many times when I come to Israel, my brother tells me, do you remember these people that helped us? We didn't have what to eat and whatnot, and the people helped us. In fact, we didn't have where to sleep, and they took a closet, and they turned it around, put it on the floor, and my brother and I, we slept in this closet back there. And I'm ashamed to say, I don't remember these people at all. And they were really good to us. My brother said, how could you not remember? I said, I don't remember. I really don't, like that didn't happen to me. It's probably, I said that, they say that when you had typhus, sometime, your brain or something get just, but until today, I don't know who the people are. And I said, now the next time I go to Israel, I really have to meet these people because they want to meet. They're much older than us. Probably they wouldn't even be alive anymore. But anyway, they have probably somebody that I could try to help them. Yeah.
So please carry on talking about what happened as the months went on there.
Well, so after this, my aunt was in jail. And we were here alone, the two children, with nobody to take care of us except these people. So one day, somehow, we heard the rumor that anybody that any orphan, some orphans that they are from Romania, they would be probably, if you are 15 years old or less, they would take you back to Romania. They would bring you back to Romania. It was in the committee, a lawyer that was a very good friend of my aunt in Romania, in Belz. And he was on this committee, and he put our name, my brother and I. We should come back. So when we left the Zobodovka, my aunt and the preacher were still in jail. So they took us back to Romania, and I was in an orphanage.
How did you get back to Romania?
By train. They took us by train. I don't remember exactly how many orphans were there, but they took us to Iasi, if you heard about this town. And there I worked like a nurse's aide. And then we were there, I couldn't remember how long, maybe a couple of weeks or a couple of months. We went to Bucharest. And I had a lot of relatives in Bucharest that they're all brother and sister and uncles of my father. And being like two young kids coming back, with all this, my family, they didn't have no place for us. And so we stayed in an orphanage for a couple of months.
In Bucharest?
In Bucharest. And I worked also in a hospital there. So the money that I was making in this hospital, I was giving to the orphanage.
What kind of work did you do in the hospital in Bucharest?
Oh, just, nurse's aide. I used to make beds, and I used to, help the patients there. Nothing like a doctor, but I was there, doing all these things for a couple of months. And
who ran the hospital there? Who operated the hospital?
They were Romanian doctors.
Was it a government hospital?
Yes, government, yeah.
What kind of patients did they have?
They had all kind of patients. They had a patient that they had serious illness, or they had more women that have children.
Were there wounded soldiers there?
No.
Civilian hospital?
Yeah. But that was a government, because that time in Romania was everything government kind of. So I worked there, and all this money that I made, I helped the orphanage. My brother used to do kind of black market. I don't know what he was buying and selling and do all this. Also, I don't remember if he did give something to the orphanage, but he was there in the same, they had a place where women were and where men were there, younger men.
When you were in Bucharest at that time, did you experience any anti-Semitism?
No, I don't. If I did, I don't remember, I didn't have no friends. I only had my family, that my father was the one to help this family, his family, and put him to, help them with money, with everything. But when we came back, nobody really had place. And even sometime when I used to go, they invite me for lunch or for supper there. The minute I walked in, they used to say, "So, you still here? You didn't go to Israel?" I didn't even know that Israel would have anything to... Said, "Oh yes, we hear that they're taking many orphans to Israel." So the minute I stepped in there, I couldn't eat anymore the food what they were preparing, because it was sticking in my throat. And that's the most help I had for my family there.
You felt they didn't really want you?
No, they did. And in fact, I didn't have no clothes. When I came back, I didn't have no clothes. I didn't have nothing. And this uncle of mine had a big store of all kind of clothes. Plus, that he has a daughter, used to have a daughter my age, that she died in Romania a year or 2 years before we came back, of scarlet fever or something. So he had all the clothes. He could really give me some of those clothes. They never gave me anything. And even when I went to the store to buy something, I mean, he didn't give it to me. I had to pay him like he would give it to me in a less price than they used to sell it regular.
So what happened after all this?
After this, I was in an orphanage, and I was working. And one day, somebody came and said that they're looking for people that want to go to Israel. We didn't really know too much about Israel. Palestine was that time, Palestine. I only knew, I remember, when I was about 12 years old, I remember my grandmother crying, taking his a younger daughter, that that time was a chalutza, and she wanted to go to Israel, to Palestine. So I remember my grandmother taking her to the station, and she was crying, and she was crying. She left. She knew she is in Palestine, but we never heard about her. We didn't know where if she survived or anything. So my brother and I said, well, we are here. We don't have anybody to help us. There's no future for us. If they'll come and ask if you want to go to Israel, we'll be ready to go. So that's exactly how it happened. They came, and that was on 44. And they said that we should go to Israel. We should go to Israel. So we didn't have nothing to pack, nothing to do. We got the certificate from the orphanage that, we are allowed to leave Israel, Palestine, and we went from Bucharest to Constanța. This is where the ship was waiting for us. And when we arrived there, the whole ship was full of people. We came very late, my brother and I. And I was for me to cry, it was just very easy to look at me, and I already cried. So I arrived there in the ship, and the whole thing was taking, and I stayed and I cried. So a man tells me why I'm crying. So I tell him in Romanian, stop to me, and I said, look, I came here and there's no place where to be. So he said, don't worry, he said, I have place. You come and be here near me, sleep here near me. I said, okay, only if I can, my brother will sleep near you, and I'll sleep near my brother. Okay, the arrangement was done like this, and so we start doing this arrangement, and the ship started going, and everybody gets very sick there, and all of a sudden at night I feel that it's not my brother that pushes me like this, it was this man that's trying to be kind of not too friendly, but differently. So I really got so scared. In the middle of the night, I jumped from that bench where we were sleeping, and I didn't know what to do. What do I do? So I was going to sleep outside. So I was crying outside. I felt very sorry for me and for my brother. My brother stayed there. He didn't even hear that I left. So then he said that I stayed there in the ship on the deck. So some man comes, opens the door, and he's talking to me. And he's telling me something. I don't understand what's talking. So somehow he make me understand what language do I speak. So I said French and Romanian. So somehow he said, wait. He said to me, wait. 2 minutes later, he comes with a girl that spoke Romanian, and she asked me why I'm here. So I tell the story. So this man was my husband. I didn't know who he is. He said, he's in charge, and you're not allowed to be on the deck because the water is very rough and you can fall and so. So she's translating me all this whole thing and said, this man wants you to come and be in his place. So, very nice. I said, well, if I can be there on the deck, I'll go there. But I come there, somehow I was afraid of men, somehow. So I said, well, but here are men also. He said, no, they're my friends. And I was there. Everybody was very nice to me, nothing. I was maybe, I don't know how many hours we slept there. And then we were also part of the deck. I don't exactly remember. And what attracts me to that man, it was that he was very nice to me, but in a nice way, you know, like he saw that I'm really afraid of this whole thing, so he was very kind. First kiss he did, he kissed me on my forehead. That was so after this, I think the story comes the next day. Like my husband said, we were together, and the group, he was in charge of all these people there, so they come and say, where are you? From the time you met this girl, you don't take care of us. So this girl, or speaking to him, said, come with us, come with me. The people want you to start taking care of us. So he said, all right, let her come. So you heard it. I come there with him, and this same girl that was translating, she said, ask me, do you like him? I looked at her. I didn't even see him exactly how he looked because it was at night. Do you sympathize with him? I said, yes. The same thing he's telling my husband, do you like her? Do you this? I see you like her. I said, yes, I like her. She takes the plate, drops it on the first, say, Mazel Tov, you just got engaged. So my Joshua, that my future husband, said, oh, leave him alone, they're just making fun or something. Then the story was that, like my husband was telling me, we had to change this, from the ship, we arrived to Turkey, and we had to get certificate to go. I was with a group from the Transnistria group, that was the orphanage, and we went with another group. So we kind of separate. So by the time I got the certificate, or he got the certificate, I didn't even know anymore where he is. But we got to the station, to the train station. And I was with my brother and with friends that I have there. And so it's 52 years old that we are married, and we still don't agree. He said I was looking for him. He really left me a place on the train, and I said I really was looking from the compartment to the last one. I was really looking for my brother. So when he saw me, he said, come and sit here. I said, no, I'm looking for my brother. He said, but you can be here. So I really found my brother after this. And I was there with him and with other people around. And my husband had a friend. He was a rabbi. So I was telling him, that's all without speaking to each other, because we didn't have a language. My husband and he spoke 7 languages, and I spoke only 2, but we didn't have no language. Everything was through that girl that translated for us. So he talked to this friend. He said, look, you're by yourself. She's there by herself, going with her brother. I can perform the wedding if you want to. So maybe my husband thought it's not such a bad idea. He came, the girl came and ask me. I thought it's so funny, you know. I said, okay, you know, to get married, be married? I never. So he tells me, yes, you want to get married? I said, okay. So I'll get married. But just I don't want anybody to be here, only the rabbi. So they explained to me that you need 10 people for this. And I don't know if somebody had the talas there, and that what he made the huppah. I didn't have anything to wear, just maybe even today I might be in style because the dress was very short, a mini and 2 colors, and I didn't have shoes, but I have, I don't know what you call it, the high, when you go mountain climbing. That's what I had. That was my wedding, and somebody gave me a babushka, and all of a sudden the whole train knew that some people were getting married. I don't think that I was hysterical laughing in my life like I was laughing there because I really didn't know what's happening. I went to my brother and I said, I don't know, they get me, I have somebody, I'm getting married, he asked me to marry him. My brother told that probably from the typhus what I have. How do you accept to get married to a man you cannot speak to him, you don't know him, you don't know where he comes from, and you say yes? I said, well, I promise, I cannot change my mind. So he came to the wedding, they made the chuppah with all this, and the rabbi made the ketubah, and here we were married. Without even, I didn't know nothing about him, he didn't know nothing about me, just we got married.
Survivor, Aviva, Benanav, Reel 4. So you were married, and what happened after that?
Well, we got married, we arrived to Israel, and we were put in camp, an athlete. So the men were one place, and the women were another place, quarantine. And I knew I'm married, but that's all on the paper. And the train, we were just holding hands, and so I really didn't know what's marriage because the truth is, my father died when I was such a young child, and I told marriage is something, you kind of, I'm still old-fashioned, you have to take care of the man, you have to cook for him, and that's it. But I didn't know anything else. We told us that my mother was a very intelligent person, but when he used to come to talk to me about many things about life, she just kind of didn't talk to me. So I really didn't know too much about being married. So we came to athlete, he was in one place, I was another place, and that happened for a couple of days. Even if I want to talk to him, I had to have my translator to say, because I really didn't understand what he was saying to me. So after this from athlete, we went to Tel Aviv. We stayed in a place there until we always were together with all these people that we came together. We were never alone until we made, like my husband was saying, that we made the plisha, that means in the Turkish time, he explained more, he knows more about this. If you go and somebody occupy a house that was very, empty or so in the Turkish time, once you occupy it, you don't go. So we were the first time together with a group of people, but we had a separate room. And I was very, I don't know if naive or afraid or something, and somehow I just didn't think that being married is more than cook for him or do things. I didn't think that it's something else also. So I used to always come out and feel like people say, did she or didn't she? So my husband said that we had to change the atmosphere. So he took me to Jerusalem in a hotel, and so maybe something is going to happen there. And I come to this hotel, and my husband explained to them in Hebrew that we are newlywed, and so you have to write there a piece of paper, and he writes his name. I wrote my name, but in the meantime I forgot his Hungarian name, and I put my maiden name. So my husband had to explain to them, you know, that we are married and everything. So that's how we started our honeymoon. We stayed in this hotel, and then my son was born a year later. Like, we were married now the 6th of December, and my son was married 12th of December. So many people, they forgot exactly how it happened. So you say, oh, now we understand why she had to get married. It was like a shotgun wedding. So that's how we start. My oldest son got, now he was 50, he's going to be 51 years old. And I had a good life. My husband always really took care of me. In fact, many times I said that he was for me not only a husband, he was a father and a brother and everything, you know, that I miss in my life. So we are married for 51 years. And that's my life story. I have 3 wonderful sons. I have 4 sons. 1 died. And so we are married now. Many people said that this marriage would never survive, because how do you marry somebody? You don't know him, or maybe I was so naive or something. I used to say, sometimes it's better if you don't know too many things about. So this is how we survive in Israel, and my husband was a very good person, you know, and I never had any, what should I say, complaints. And my 2 children were born in Israel, and 2 children were born in the United States. We came here in '53, and I have, thank God, 8 grandchildren. I have 8 grandchildren, and from all these grandchildren, I have only 1 granddaughter. I have 7 boys and 1 girl, and they're all very nice grandchildren, just like their parents. That's our life. It's nothing that I could say more, except that I was happy, except the period when my son died. And it was a very big thing. So,
looking back, how do you account for your survival?
I account, like I said, it's destiny, it's fate, because I saw that there are many people that they have not suffered so much, and they were much older, with much more, and the concentration camp, they were the first one to die. Why did I survive? I mean, I was a young girl, skinny, I didn't have nothing to eat, I was sick with all the sickness and no medicine, and I survived. What makes us survive? It's not that some people say, oh, you had the will to survive. I didn't even know who wanted to survive? Who wanted to be alone there like a dog or something, be alone without the parents, without anybody? It was part of, I think it was destiny, and that's it.
How much do you think about the Holocaust now?
I think that the older I get, I think much, much more. It comes back. It was a time that I would not want to remember. My children never knew about my story until they were older already. And the only time I started talking about this, it was when many times they show you picture on TV. And they used to say, Mom, did you go through all this? I said, yes. So how come we don't know about it? How come? I kind of didn't want to tell them. I don't know why, but maybe I didn't want to remember myself. So that's all I can say. I remember all the things more and more and more. The more I get older, the more I remember many episodes that when I was young, maybe I was so busy bringing up the family, making a life for ourselves, being many times alone when my husband used to travel all over and I had to stay with the children, making sure that they are the ones, you know, to see a better thing than I did. So I don't know why I didn't talk to them.
Your sons have all been successful in their
Yeah, my
careers?
sons were all successful. I have a son that two of them went to law school, but they never practiced law. One works for an insurance company, the Aetna insurance company. He was almost the president of the company, but now he decided that it was a lot of politics there, so he just completely left. And then I have another son. My one is in Minnesota. The first son has 3 children, has 2 sons and a little girl. And one is married already, and my granddaughter is not married, and then I have a younger grandson. So my second son lives in Minnesota. He's also a lawyer, but he's a president of a reinsurance company in Minnesota. He's also very successful, has a very wonderful wife, just like my first son. He has a wonderful, wonderful wife, and he also very good provider, and he really was very successful in what he was doing, and it was a happy marriage, and that made me feel even better. My second son is also very successful, has 3 children, 3 boys, and my youngest one then was the other one, my other son Jonathan, that died. He was not married. And then I have my youngest son. He has his PhD in artificial intelligence. He's working, has also 2 children, 2 boys, and he's also successful. And he has a very lovely family. And this is all what we want, to see they're happy. And our life now depends on them. We are very happy with what they're doing, and we are happy that they are healthy, and we are happy that the grandchildren are on the road to be like their parents, and this is my life.
I wanted to ask you, was your health damaged by your wartime experiences, apart from the typhus from which you recovered?
Yeah, I would say it was damaged in the way maybe when we were young, we didn't know how much damage it did. But plus I'm not a complainer. And even if I had pain sometime, I just say, well, if I complain, it won't help me. But I have arthritis in my hand and my knees. I have frozen, my feet froze there. But I was very lucky.
Did you lose some toes?
Yeah, I have one toe that's lost. The other one was lost, but somehow it grew back, but crooked. and I have arthritis in my legs. My knee hurts me terrible. Some days I can't even walk on it, but I always say it could have been worse.
Do you dream about your wartime experiences?
Yeah, many times I do. I dream about my mother, I dream about my uncles, my family that didn't survive. And sometimes I think even my husband wakes me up. You know, I have nightmares. So,
how would you describe the effect of your wartime experiences on your religious and philosophical outlook?
Well, we were never very religious, like I said, because my mother, after thing happened, he said, if God can do that, I should be left with 26-year-old widow with 2 children. We were never really religious. But after this, like we said, if it would have been a God, then it shouldn't have happened to us what had happened. So how can we believe in a God like this? I mean, why would we be the one, you know, why would we let so many people died and why? What did we do wrong? What did the Jewish people or all this, what did we do wrong? How can you believe in him? So that's what it is. I never go to the synagogue. And I only go sometime, maybe, just for the Easter, you know, for my son really, and for my parents or all the people. But most of the time now I go more because of my son. Without even believing in God. I think it's a place where you can cry, but I really don't. Maybe I'm afraid to say is no God. Maybe I said to myself, well, if it is a God, why would be so cruel to us? But deep inside, I'm really afraid to say is no God. Then I really think serious about it. So I really couldn't tell you. I really don't believe in it, but this is very just between us, like. When you have a tragedy, I always say, oh God, please help me. So do I believe in him or I don't believe in him? But when it's a really tragedy, that's when you say to yourself, God help me.
Finally, do you have any special message for the world?
Oh, I don't know what I can say. I said that the only message I say, just try, like I say to my children, just try to be yourself and try to be as much helpful you are to other people. Doesn't mean that because the person is black or white or Chinese or something. Just try to help each other and try to be good. And maybe it would be a better world, but hopefully it would be soon, but I don't see it like this. So that hopefully their children would be the one, you know, to get the benefits from this bad situation, and who knows.
Who's in this picture?
And this picture is my mother and my father. I think that was maybe the engagement picture, or maybe after they got married. She was 17 years old, and my father was 10 years older than she was.
What are their names?
My mother's name was Anna, and my father's name was Karol.
Last name?
Rosen.
And where was this taken?
That was taken probably in Ivesht, when they got all, probably in Ivesht, yeah.
Who's in this picture?
That's my aunt, Maria Jakobson, and that's me at the age maybe 12 years old.
What year would that be?
38.
And where was the picture taken?
That was taken in Belz, Basarabia. And this picture was taken in Bucharest.
When?
I think it was in maybe we were very young. I must have been also about 10, 12 years and you could see the picture. I was angry because they took me to the dentist, and I didn't want to go to the dentist. And my brother didn't like to take pictures. My brother is now in Israel, and he's married there, and
What is his name?
Israel,
Mhm.
Israel Rosen.
And he's on the left?
Yes, that's my brother.
What is this a picture of?
The picture is of my a stone that was put there for my aunt that died in Transnistria, that was with us in Transnistria, and under it it's written about my mother also that died in Transnistria, and they put the names also of her brothers and sisters that didn't survive, and so that we have something to remember them.
And where is this?
This is in Bucharest now.
What is this a picture of?
That's the picture when I was working in Hadassah Hospital in Tel Aviv. I used to be a nurse's aide, and I used to work in delivery. I used to help newborn to come to this wonderful world. So
Which one is you?
that's the one with the, you could see the way I hold the baby that I don't have too much experience. This is me, yeah, that's me.
Who's in this picture?
And this picture is my husband, Joshua, and me, Aviva, and my oldest son, Gidon. And that was like a family picture.
Where was it taken?
It was taken in Ramat Gan.
When?
Was 47. Yeah, 47.
And who is this?
This is the mother of this great family that we have. It was taken when I arrived to United States, and you could see how happy I look. That's because I had such a wonderful marriage and such a wonderful children, and well, it's a good picture.
When?
Was taken in 53, and it was taken in where was it taken in? I don't remember.
Who's in this picture?
This is the whole family. Was taking one of my grandson bar mitzvah, and this is my daughter-in-law Lucy.
On the left?
Yes, in the purple, and she's the mother of the bar mitzvah boy, and next to her is her husband, my son, that's very proud, Jay, yeah, and his name was in Israel Yair, and here they call him Jay. See, I don't see any. Who is here? This here, I can't even see.
Put your glasses.
Bring me the glasses. Can't see anything.
Okay, one.
It's Lucy. This is my other daughter-in-law, Lucy. That's my youngest son's wife.
Next to her?
Next to her, it's me.
Lucy's
And-
not Emerson's wife.
Next to
Elise is
you?
there.
Here, Alice. Next to me, the tallest one is my youngest son. His name is Dan. And next to him is my husband, Joshua. And next to my husband is my oldest son. His name is Gidon. They call him here Gary Benanav. And next to my son, the tallest one, is his son. His name is Stephen. He's now in college. He's a wonderful, wonderful grandson. Very nice, just wonderful. And this is my oldest grandson for my oldest son. And his name is Michael. And next to him is his wife. He's married to a wonderful girl. Her name is Katie. Now going down, I have my grandson that belongs to my youngest son, Dan. And next to him is his name.
Grandson is not dead.
Yeah, my next to Aaron. That's Aaron. Next to Aaron is David. This is my youngest. Not really my youngest son. He belongs to the J, to Yair, and to Lucy. And here we have a younger son of my youngest son. That's my grandson from the younger son. His name is David.
Ethan.
Oh, it's Ethan. Excuse me, that's Ethan. And near Ethan is Sam. He's the youngest one for my middle son, from Jay and Lucy. And the bar mitzvah boy is not here. He just went to play, so we don't have a picture of him.
Tammy.
And then we have my granddaughter, the only granddaughter in family, and her name is Tamara. They call her Tammy. And next to is her mother, my wonderful daughter-in-law. Her name is Ruth. That's married to my oldest son. And
That's it.
that's it. I would like to make a correction, and I was very excited, and I said that my youngest son's wife, her name is Alice, and they married for many years very happily, and I think they're very happy, and I'm very happy to have all the daughters-in-law being so wonderful to me, and I hope that they'll be as good, their children would be as good as they are to me. So this is the story of my life, and I love them all, and I hope they'll be happy for the rest of their life.